At exactly 16:30, a Ukrainian MiG-29 was cutting across the sky above Donetsk, racing just 150 meters over the ground as it followed the winding Marivka Dam corridor, a place that had quietly transformed into one of the most crucial Russian supply arteries in the region. The pilot had used every fold and shadow of the terrain to stay invisible. So far, his gamble was paying off, but that illusion would last only a few more minutes. What the pilot didn't know was that 3 separate Russian air defense systems had already marked him like a spotlight on a stage performer. An Su-400's gravestone radar had locked onto him from 38 kilometers away. To the south, a Tor-M2 battery was already tracking his heat signature, and from the east, a Bakan-3 system was in the final stages of activation. The overlapping kill zones created a lethal dome over the region, enough firepower to shred even the toughest aircraft into smoking debris. Inside the cockpit, the pilot kept his attention on the real-time feed streaming across his display. The dam at Merla-Bivka had turned into a two-lane artery for Russian logistics. Dozens of trucks rolled over it each hour, many of them driven by Ukrainian civilians coerced into the job. That meant the strike window was razor-thin, but the attack had to be pinpoint accurate at the exact moment when civilian presence was minimized. Hesitation meant collateral casualties. Delay meant mission failure. The MiG tucked itself into the natural trench carved by the Dnipro River Valley, hiding inside it like a shadow. At 880 kilometers per hour, just half a football field above the ground, the pilot's only real defense was terrain masking. As long as he kept the hills between himself and the radars, he was a ghost. But the valley ended in 8 minutes. And once the ground flattened into farmland, had be exposed a moving silhouette in what pilots grimly called the shooting gallery. The world blurred through the HUD at 236 meters per second. Power lines flicked past faster than thought. This wasn't flying, it was threading a needle at bullet speed. His muscle memory was doing more work than conscious decision-making, the hands correcting, banking, nudging the stick long before his brain could form the commands. Yet none of that mattered compared to the growing tension radiating from the SPOA-15 radar warning receiver. Its circular display lit with strobes like a furious compass. The system didn't tell distance, only direction and radar mode. It was like knowing someone was yelling at you but not whether they were in the next room or inches from your face. He counted the pulse intervals. 3 beats apart meant searching. 2 meant you're interesting. 1 meant we're about to shoot. Right now, he was hearing something between 1 and 2. Not fatal yet, but close enough to force decisions. He needed 8 more minutes of invisibility. Meanwhile, the Hammer precision bomb on his centerline hardpoint performed silent diagnostics every few seconds. Strong GPS lock, stable inertial navigation alignment, rocket motor ready. But the bomb required altitude he didn't yet have. At 150 meters, its trajectory wouldn't work. That was a problem for later if he survived long enough to reach release point. Complicating everything, the fuel gauge read 2,400 kilograms. Home was 142 kilometers away. At his current consumption, he had roughly 18 minutes of operational fuel. But combat is a glutton. Every burst of afterburner, every evasive maneuver, every climb was going to eat that margin alive. The road to 33s were drinking fuel like university freshmen discovering free beer. 8 kilometers left before the valley ended. 8 kilometers left of safety. The drone overhead confirmed no Russian air activity, no movement on the dam. So the pilot pushed his throttles forward. Each second saved now was 1 second less he'd need to spend hovering over deck. At 16:38, he reached the edge of the valley and instantly learned what full radar exposure felt like. The SPOA-15 erupted. The tone became a furious, uninterrupted scream. The Su-400's wide search beam suddenly narrowed into a sniper-precise tracking ray. The MiG-29 went from hard to find to perfect target instantly. At 38 kilometers, the Su-400 had him locked. The steady, high-pitched tone meant only one thing: missile launch imminent. The pilot reacted immediately. He banked hard, slicing into a knife-edge turn that pulled 7 brutal GS. The maneuver placed his aircraft perpendicular to the radar beam. Doppler radars track moving objects by detecting frequency shift, but at that angle, his radial velocity dropped to near 0. On radar, the MiG blended into the ground. The lock broke, but the cost was momentum and a precious few seconds of position. Then a Tor-M2 lit up from 8 kilometers south. Close enough that if he dared look he might have seen the dust cloud from its generator. The Tor used command guidance and no onboard seeker to mislead. The only option was to break the system's tracking radar or disappear into terrain clutter. He dropped from 150 meters to 50 meters in an eye-watering 2 seconds. Trees whipped past close enough to brush with fingertips. He slammed the chaff dispenser, flooding the air with 120 clouds of metallic fibers tuned exactly to the S-400's radar wavelength. To the gravestone radar, it looked like had exploded into 1,000 pieces. But the Tor operated on a different frequency, so he deployed the second chaff load of fibers cut to 4.3 millimeters. Now he had a multi-layered chaff corridor behind him, a shimmering tunnel of false radar ghosts. The Tor struggled to maintain a lock. The radar kept confusing him with ground clutter. Next, he flipped on the ECM pod. The SPS-141 activated like an electronic magician. It used range gate pull-off to create a fake target, the bright phantom that peeled away from the real MiG. The radar's computer automatically followed the stronger false echo, believing it was the aircraft. The Tor operator was now staring at a ghost. The real MiG was already gone, but flying at 50 meters was suicidal if prolonged. One cable, one tree, one hill, and had become a crater with a nameplate. He had to climb soon. The release point was 8 kilometers ahead. His window was shrinking, so he made the decision his flight school instructors would be called reckless. But combat pilots called it survival. He was going to create chaos. If every radar locked him simultaneously, no single battery could coordinate a clean firing solution. Overload the system, saturate the frequency, break the rhythm for kilometers to release fuel. 2,150 kilograms, enough to get home if absolutely nothing else went wrong. At exactly 1640, the pilot did the most dangerous thing possible. He lit the afterburners and pointed straight up. Flames erupted behind the MiG like the tail of a rocket. His climb rate skyrocketed. Within seconds, every radar operator in eastern Ukraine saw the same thing. A bright target emerging from ground clutter like a flare shot into the night. Inside the S-400 control cabin, the operator scrambled. Altitude rising past 1,000 meters, then 2,000. Climb rate 330 meters per second. 2 missiles were cleared. Launch authorization granted. Meanwhile, the MiG was pulling a sustained 4 grams climb. His field of vision narrowed. Color drained from the world. At 6 grams seconds, tunnel vision closes like a shrinking tunnel. At 9 grams seconds, blackout comes in 3 seconds. He danced at the edge of physical collapse. At the top of the climb, he added a barrel roll. His flight path twisted into a corkscrew, making predictive targeting nearly impossible. Fire control computers couldn't calculate a stable intercept. 3 different systems achieved lock. S-400 Rabakan 3 tore him to the radar warning receiver stopped showing individual signals. It just screamed. Then, inverted at 5,000 meters, he finally had altitude for the bomb. The Hammer's checklist executed into seconds. GPS verified. Instance infrared seeker cooled. Rocket motor confirmed. Warhead armed. 2 S-400 missiles launched. 35 seconds to impact. He leveled for 2 seconds, just long enough for the bomb's release sequence. Then, drop. The MiG lurched upward as the 250 kg payload separated. Instantly lighter, instantly more agile. The moment the bomb detached, he rolled inverted again and dove. A full 9.5 grams pull. The airframe groaned. Something in the left wing root flexed ominously, but held. He dropped from 5,000 meters to 500 in 8 seconds. Supersonic. Mach 1.1 and rising. The S-400 missiles tried to follow but overshot. His dive angle exceeded their tracking ability. Both missiles soared into empty sky and self-destructed. Meanwhile, the Hammer climbed, then arsed into its terminal trajectory. Its thermal seeker activated, identifying the dam by its heat signature 35C concrete against 15C water. A perfect contrast. The bomb made micro-corrections, fins adjusting millimeters at a time, each correction shifting the impact point by meters. Behind the MiG, a Bakan 3 fired at the bomb, mistaking it for the aircraft to wasting $1 million missile on a weapon that didn't even try to evade. The drone operator watching from 8 kilometers away zoomed in. He pressed record. The dam had 5 seconds left. 4, 3, 2, 1. The Hammer hit at 340 meters per second. The smart fuse triggered the 89K explosive instantly. The shockwave pulverized concrete before cracks could form. The far side of the dam blew outward as the blast propagated through the structure at 5,000 meters per second. The breach grew 60 meters wide in under a minute. A key Russian logistics route vanished in less time than a smartphone ad. And the MiG, low on fuel, battered, barely held together, slipped away into the landscape. Mission accomplished. For now, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next missions and news.